Waxing your concrete stained floors.
Camouflage your concrete. Yeah.
There's many ways to wax concrete stained floors. You can use paste wax. There's waxes that you burnish in. There's waxes that claim to seal and wax at the same time. But the best floor wax to use is just a simple mop-on style wax. The mop-on style wax is not only easier to apply, but it's easier to maintain. You never need a buffing machine. And mop-on is actually a little bit misleading. You don't use a mop. What you use is a lamb's wool applicator or a synthetic wax applicator. You could use a sponge mop, but it tends to leave little lines where the edge of the sponge mop is. So, I highly recommend a lamb's wool applicator. What you'll do is you will pour the wax into a paint pan. You then dip the lamb's wool applicator into the wax and you rake the excess wax out of the lamb's wool applicator via the side of the paint pan so it spills back into the paint pan, and then you apply it on the floor. You're going to work in sections, and of course you're working your way backwards just like with all the other steps, and you are going to wax backwards and forth 2 or 3 times backwards and forth, and you're going to make sure that the last stroke is to you. You're always pulling the wax to you. Whenever you use a mop-on wax, the idea is to apply it as thin as you possibly can. It's a lot like the water-based sealer. You want to put it on thin. After you've applied the first coat, you're going to allow it to dry. Mop-on wax usually takes about an hour to dry between coats. So you do your first coat, let it dry for about an hour. You're going to know that it's dry because mop-on wax is usually a milky white in the jug, and whenever you mop it on, it mops on kind of with a whitish, kind of a bluish haze, and then it dries clear. After the first coat is dried, then you're going to apply the second coat. And just like the sealer, if it's at all possible, apply it in the opposite direction you did the first coat, like north to south first coat, east to west second coat. If you can't, then it'll be alright. It won't be that great of a drama, but you do need to try to go in opposite directions if you can. Industrial grade mop-on waxes only recommend 2 initial coats. The lesser quality waxes are going to want you to put 3 or 4 or more coats the first time. And depending on the product that you use, you're going to apply all of your initial coats, allowing it to completely dry in between coats. And again, you'll know that it's dry just by looking at it, and you can also reach down and touch it to be sure. After you have applied your initial coats, then you're going to allow it to dry overnight before you get on it with any kind of foot traffic. Clean up your lamb's wool applicator or your synthetic applicator with warm water. That way you can reuse it whenever you need it. The lower grade mop-on waxes will only last for a few weeks before they scuff or dull, but the higher grade mop-on waxes will last for several months before they scuff or dull. When it does start to scuff or dull, you just mop on a fresh coat, and it'll make it brand new like the day you did it. It'll take out the scuffs and it'll take out the dullness. You never need to use a buffing machine with mop-on waxes, although you can use a buffing machine if you like. Buffing machines can bring out a higher shine and extend the wax life, but mop-on wax is typically fairly inexpensive, depending of course on the grade of mop-on wax that you get. Lower grade will be a lesser price, the higher grade will be a higher price, but usually the higher grade at the higher price is going to be a better value because you get a longer lifespan out of it before you have to reapply it. If you're staining an extremely smooth concrete slab, you should still seal it before you wax it. Many places, many websites, many gurus and many products will tell you that you can stain and then you can just simply wax it without sealing. That is not recommended, and I would never suggest that. I would always suggest that you seal the concrete first and then you wax over that. The sealer protects the stain, and then the wax is the sacrificial coat that protects the sealer. That keeps you from ever having to do anything else other than sweep and mop and occasionally mop on a fresh coat of wax. Standing water for an extended period of time on wax can cause the wax to go cloudy or blue, but usually a good mop-on wax, once it is dried, will dry back down clear. Most waxes, mop-on waxes, are UV resistant, but they will not hold up to chemicals such as gas, oil drips, paint thinners, or heavy cleaners like ammonia. Waxes can typically be, especially mop-on waxes, can typically be stripped fairly easily with simple green or with a commercial wax remover. Ammonia and water will remove the cheaper made waxes fairly easily, but the industrial grade waxes, ammonia and water doesn't work so well on. You'll need more of a commercial wax remover, or like I said, simple green. It works really well at removing waxes. And that concludes the applying the floor wax section.
Camouflage your concrete. Yeah.